Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Barry Beckham. Creative photography can be a little bit like digital doodling. We're not always entirely certain where we're heading when we start the manipulation process, but we just see where the journey leads. But the more we do this, the better we get at finding the correct route. The image we're viewing in Camera Raw is an infrared image, but the editing for this is no different to any other black and white manipulation we may do. I've already cropped the image to 16:9, so it perfectly matches my Camera Club aspect ratio. As we open this image into Photoshop, the scene looks a little bit too fussy to me. So what I'd like to do is to simplify it quite a bit. And to do that, I'm going to use Topaz Simplify 4. Now I appreciate that many of you will not have this filter, but all you need to do is to replace the Topaz filter that I'm using with one of your own choice. Any creative filter can be tried, including those available in Photoshop. After all, this is the nature of creative photography. So I'm going to start by adding some colour. I'm going to go to my filter menu at the top of the screen and choose Neural Filters. Now when these appear, the one we're looking for is Colorize. And when you use this for the first time, you may be asked to download this from the cloud. It's not a big job. It's not a separate issue to Photoshop. It'll all happen in this window in a few seconds. I've already done that, so I'm just going to click the rocker switch and give the software just a few seconds to apply the colour. Now I don't want to spend too much time with this filter. As you can see here, we have a number of presets we can try, and we have a variable slider bank here where we can change the colours that we're viewing here. If you just want to change one or two colours, what I tend to do is to locate them on the thumbnail at the top right. It's a little bit hard sometimes because the thumbnail is so small, but if you look at the driveway up to the cottage, it looks a little bit too blue to me, so I'm going to click on my thumbnail just about that area, and as you can see, the colour picker pops up. What I want to do is to pick a neutral brown colour, something which is going to take away that blue colour. Let's click OK. And you can see it's done quite a bit, but it hasn't done the entire area. So all I need to do is click around that area. So I'm going to click just a little bit above and perhaps a little bit over on the right there. And there you can see it's added that brown colour all the way around. You can do this as many times as you wish to get the effect you're looking for. If you look at the foliage over on the left hand side, that looks a little bit warm in tone as well. If I wanted to return that to green, if I go back to my thumbnail and click into that bush, at first it's going to pick up the colour we picked for those other alterations. But if I click the colour panel and I change this for a pale green, we may need a little trial and error to get what suits us, but there you can see it. And if I wanted to include that to the upper parts of that plant on the left, there you can see how we can do that. I don't think really I can go much further here. It is personal choice. But of course, at some stage, we need to go down to OK and open this back up into Photoshop. Now, thinking about the next stage, which is to apply the Topaz filter or whatever filter you decide is your choice, I've found over the years that applying filters to a high resolution image and then downsizing that image for a Camera Club competition doesn't always work so well. So here I'm going to reduce my 16:9 aspect ratio image here to the size of the Camera Club rules. I'm going to go to Image Size. Because I've already cropped it, I know when I put 1920 pixels on the long side that the height is going to be perfect at 1080. Click OK to that, and then Ctrl 0 to fit the image back on screen. Let's begin by making a copy of our layer thumbnail with Ctrl J. I may not even need this layer sitting at the bottom of the stack, but always good to have it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this into a smart object or a smart filter. To do that, with the layer selected, I'm going to go to my filter menu and almost at the top, convert for smart filters. Now you can see a little symbol appears at the bottom right corner to tell us that's what we have. Now let me go and apply my filter. So back up to my filter menu here, down to my Topaz Labs and Topaz Simplify 4. This is another one of those filter systems that we could spend 30 or 40 minutes within just looking at the options. Let's try and avoid that and keep things simple. First thing, I'm going to make this 100% so I can evaluate it, or the filter I'm about to apply, at the size it's going to be seen in the camera club should the picture be entered. I'm also going to leave you to check out all of the options you have down here. I'm going to pick the top one, Buzz Sim. And there you can see the effect it applies. I tend to find the defaults a little bit higher for me. So coming over to the right hand side, we can drop down the simplify size and give the software just a few seconds to make those changes. In some instances, I found that this filter can apply a little bit too much colour. If that happens, go down to your adjust options here. You can see just how many you have. But all you need to do is reduce the saturation and or the saturation boost and you'll be fine. So let's click OK to apply the image and view it back in Photoshop. We'll notice that the layers look a little bit different to normal. Let me go through what we have here. We have a layer mask here which is applied automatically. If I wanted to reduce the impact of the filter effect in any one area of this image, I can select the mask and I can paint with any of the tools of Photoshop using black as my foreground colour. Now it may not be important for this sort of image, but if we had people's faces within it, then we may want to lessen the impact of the filter in certain locations. Just to the right of the layer mask, we have a little icon which takes us to blend modes, very similar to those that we see here. I'd like to ignore those because I don't think I've ever used them, and this is the option which I think is the most important. Topaz Simplify 4, it's telling us what filter we've applied, and it's given us the opportunity to double click and go straight back into the filter system. And now we can adjust the filter as many times as we wish. So if we wanted to increase its impact or reduce it, we've got the opportunity to do that, then click OK, and it'll be applied and we'll be back into Photoshop. Now, if we applied more than one filter, we'll actually see both filters below that layer mask. It goes without saying, of course, that we should be saving this as a Photoshop file as we go through the process. What I'd like to do next is to apply a texture to my artwork. I'm going to go up to my layer menu here. I'm going to create a new layer, but from the options that appear, I'm going to use a drop-down mode menu here to select overlay, and I'm going to fill that overlay with a neutral colour 50% grey. When I click OK, we can see it here, but it has no effect on the image. Not yet, at least. But this is another layer where the smart filter is going to give us a great benefit. So let me go back to my filters menu and apply convert smart filters. And straight away, I'm going to go back to my filters, down to texture and texturizer. Now we have a number of filters in here, and we can always import new filters or even ones we've created ourselves. From this menu here, I'm going to select burlap. This is one that comes with Photoshop. We get the opportunity to scale it, so I'm going to drop the scaling down a little bit. We can adjust how the light affects it, so if we had it from the left, we've got that up and down sort of weave. From the bottom or the top, we're going to get something like that. From the top left or bottom right, we're going to get something like that. The relief I'm going to suggest probably needs to be lower than 6, but I'll leave it a little bit bold and click OK. Now, in fact, it doesn't look too bad, but let's assume that we're not too happy with the size of the weave. We've got the same effect we saw with the topaz filters. We've got a mask to be able to reduce the effect of the texture in strategic locations if we wish. We've got the same blend options, which I doubt we need. But the most important is we can double click the texturizer, go back in and make as many changes as we like. So for example, I could say, well, let's take a look at what canvas looks like. That weave looks a little bit tight to me now, so I'm going to increase that size, but I'm going to drop the relief down to about 4 and click OK. Now we can do this as many times as we wish so that we select the perfect texture that sets off our image. Now, of course, we would save this as a Photoshop file so we can come back to our layers at any time. But at some stage we would want to flatten the image to finish. Here's a quick creative filter option for those using Photoshop filters. As you can see here, I've created 3 layer thumbnails and I've converted the bottom layer to a smart filter. What I need to do is to go to my filters menu. I'm going to go to my artistic filters and plastic wrap. Now the settings I'm going to use here are completely variable. So for this quick demonstration, I'm going to click OK. Remember, we can come back into this as many times as we like because we're working with a smart filter. While I've still got the same layer selected, I'm going to go back into the filters and I'm going to add another. Again, artistic. This time it's cutout. Once again, we've got lots of options to change the number of levels and the simplicity, but again, I'm going to click the default to provide the filter effect that you can see here. You can also see that those 2 filters have taken away quite a bit of colour. I knew this was going to happen, so I did create this layer just to help out. Turning this layer back on, if I blend this using the colour option, as you can see, I can quite easily put more colour back into my picture, and I could, of course, increase the colour if I needed to. I used the top layer here just to balance the photo quality image with the filtered layers below. So if I select that layer, I can do that either globally using the opacity, or I could add a mask and do it selectively if it was necessary. As you can see, I can have very little of the photo quality image or as much as I need. The other thing I can do is to go back down to my mask. If I select the mask, I'm going to pick up a soft edge brush. I'm also going to make sure that I've got my flow rate down to about 10%, because if I wanted to look at the top of the sky as an example, if I wanted to try and alleviate that little odd shape, you can see I can make my brush bigger and I can just adjust the effect of the filter, because we're never absolutely sure of the effect of each filter we apply, and most of the time they give us a good effect, but not all of the time, and we need to have a way to deal with these little problems. Here we can quite clearly see the name on the side of the boat, but sometimes filter effects can destroy words, and there's nothing worse than having words that you can't read. So this would be an area, if necessary, where we could reveal the words a bit more carefully. But if I just bring this to a finish by brushing over this area, you can see that you do have quite a number of options on how you present your creative images, because there's no rights or wrongs. As before, we would save this as a Photoshop file, flatten to finish, and of course this is another example where we could put on a textured finish. And as you can see with my completed image, I've used the sandstone texture, which is a part of Photoshop. I'll see you next time.